If America ever faces a real food crisis, it won't be because we ran out of food. It will be because we ran out of fertilizer or the systems that deliver it. You know? Just pause and think about that for a second. When we picture empty grocery store shelves or freight bottlenecks, we usually blame a bad harvest or maybe a localized trucking strike, right? But the actual truth? The most absolutely crucial vulnerability in our entire national food supply chain happens long before a single seed is even planted in Iowa or Nebraska.
Because we are talking about 40 to 60% of all U.S. crop yields depending entirely on nitrogen fertilizer. Without it, our agricultural output literally gets cut in half. No joke. The stakes for our national security, our economy, and, well, our daily lives are just massive. We're currently completely dependent on a highly sensitive, really complex system just to maintain the absolute baseline of what we eat every day.
So, welcome to The Explainer. I'm thrilled you're joining us for this. Today we're conducting a national systems briefing on how America can mass-produce its own fertilizer and ultimately achieve total independence. Okay, let's dive into this. Because what we're tackling today isn't just an agricultural issue, it's a structural one. We're going to break down exactly how we transition from a fragile, fragmented supply chain into a highly resilient domestic powerhouse.
Section 1. The first domino. Why fertilizer dictates absolutely everything. Here is the painful reality of the system we have right now. A delivery delay of just 2 to 3 weeks, which honestly happens all the time, can reduce a farmer's crop yields by 5 to 15%. And because we're so exposed to global volatility, fertilizer prices can violently swing anywhere from 30 to a staggering 200% during an energy shock. We're heavily reliant on imported nitrogen, phosphorus, and potash. Basically, that means our domestic food supply is uncomfortably tied to global natural gas prices, fragile shipping logistics, and unpredictable geopolitical events.
But here is the major paradigm shift. America doesn't have a fertilizer shortage. America has a coordination problem. This completely flips how we need to approach the issue. We've got to stop looking at this with a resource scarcity mindset and start looking at it with a systemic engineering mindset. We have the raw materials. We have the infrastructure right here at home. What we lack is the ability to coordinate them efficiently.
Section 2. The hidden architecture, moving from chemistry to computation.
Today's fragile systems rely on lossy forecasting and essentially guesswork. It's kind of like trying to run a national supply chain based on a constantly changing weather forecast. It's a nightmare. Enter oikonomia, which introduces a deterministic system. It upgrades us to an exact mathematical train schedule. We're talking about reversible transport, deterministic scaling, and long-horizon stability. Upgrading from our current drifting models to a mathematically stable system isn't just a nice-to-have idea anymore, it's literally an inevitable requirement to secure our national infrastructure.
Because when you really break it down to its core, fertilizer isn't just chemistry, it's computation. Think about it. Ammonia synthesis, heat exchange optimization, natural gas routing, managing those complex catalytic cycles, these are all massive multi-step compute problems. And right now, the computation running underneath our real-world factories is incredibly fragile. Amazingly, we are essentially relying on a series of disjointed spreadsheets to run a multi-billion-dollar physical network. It's frankly absurd once you realize the stakes involved.
Section 3. Enter oikonomia, the deterministic substrate.
Oikonomia is defined as a deterministic substrate. So what does that actually mean in plain English? Well, it means it acts as a foundational digital layer that actively stabilizes physical ammonia production. It optimizes those feedstock flows, fine-tunes the catalytic cycles, manages plant scheduling, and balances energy inputs with absolute mathematical certainty, rather than just probability. It replaces all that messy guesswork with hard, deterministic guarantees.
Specifically, oikonomia perfectly coordinates natural gas inputs so our real U.S. ammonia plants literally never idle unnecessarily. It completely eliminates resource misallocation, it routes fertilizer deterministically, guaranteeing it reaches farms way before that crucial 2-week delay window we talked about earlier. Plus, it easily integrates modern inputs like solar-powered hydrogen electrolysis to expand domestic production. It even simulates national supply and demand to effectively prevent hoarding and fraud. It stabilizes every single step of the production and delivery cycle.
Section 4. The rollout plan. 3 phases to independence.
So how do we actually do this? Phase 1 takes 0 to 6 months and requires absolutely 0 new factories. It's a pure compute upgrade to stabilize existing inputs and routing. Phase 2, from 6 to 24 months, expands domestic production by using this new computation to optimize new plant designs and seamlessly integrate solar power. Finally, Phase 3, spanning 2 to 5 years, unifies all this into a national fertilizer network with fraud-proof routing and fully predictable, reliable supply flows.
Now, what's really interesting about this is the immediate impact of just Phase 1. By simply applying pure computation to the infrastructure we already have, we're projecting a 15% increase in effective ammonia output, a 30% reduction in routing errors, and a 7.5% reduction in energy waste. We instantly get more fertilizer, faster and cheaper, without pouring a single ounce of new concrete. We literally just fix the math.
Section 5. The multiplier effect, real-world economic impact. So the crucial point is that stabilizing this base computational layer creates a massive cascade upward into every other sector. In production, we get up to 20% more ammonia and drastically less downtime. In distribution, delays are slashed by up to 50%. And in agriculture, this creates 5 to 15% more stable yields and significantly lowers price volatility. For policymakers and investors, this represents highly lucrative, multi-billion-dollar annual savings and total structural resilience against global oil shocks. It is an incredibly compelling pitch.
But let's bring this all back down to earth, back to the everyday human experience. Why should you or your local farmer care about deterministic substrate? Well, for families, this means stable grocery prices and an end to the anxiety of suddenly seeing empty shelves. For farmers, it means absolute reliability. You get your fertilizer exactly when you need to plant, leading directly to higher yields and peace of mind. And for the country as a whole, it means a rock-solid food supply and a deeply resilient economy, finally insulated from foreign supply chain disruptions. And that really brings us to our core conclusion. Oikonomia doesn't create nitrogen. It creates determinism, the foundation of a stable nation. If America wants to stabilize food, fuel, and daily life, we absolutely have to stabilize fertilizer. And as we've seen today, that stabilization doesn't start in a physical factory. It starts in the computation running underneath it.
I want to leave you with this final, lingering thought. We've just seen how upgrading to a deterministic architecture completely revolutionizes our national agricultural base. But if stabilizing our computation is the key to securing our food supply, what other fragile national systems out there are just waiting to be made deterministic? Think about our power grids, our water logistics, our medical supply chains. The potential of this structural shift is absolutely massive. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep asking questions, and I'll see you next time.